Hi, and welcome to LinkAsia. I'm Thuy Vu. On July 9th, Indonesia is holding a presidential election. As Southeast Asia's largest country and the world's most populous Muslim country, with 240 million people, Indonesia is an important player in the region. There are two main candidates, 35-year-old Jokowi Widodo, the popular mayor of the capital, Jakarta. He's facing 62-year-old Prabowo Subianto, a former general with close ties to Indonesia's former dictator, Suharto. Prabowo married Suharto's daughter. Both campaigns are targeting young Indonesians. About 30% of the electorate is under 35, many of whom have never voted. But will they show up at the polls? Here's our partner, Engage Media, a Southeast Asia NGO that campaigns for social and environmental change.
According to some Engage Media videographers, young Indonesians are anxious to vote.
Senang aja karena ikut serta dalam proses demokrasi di Indonesia. Pengennya sih pilih presiden yang merakyat, terus paham sama keinginan anak-anak muda. Ya pokoknya presiden yang kreatif lah.
Although TV is still the medium of choice, both candidates are creative in their use of social media. Each has a number of apps for smartphones, widely used in Indonesia. A third of Indonesia's 190 million people have Twitter or Facebook accounts. Most of those are younger voters. They're split in their support. Jokowi has more Twitter fans. Prabowo has a big lead on Facebook. And the debate on social media is bitter.
Terutama teman-teman yang dulunya di Facebook itu bersahabat, mereka itu akhirnya saling ejek hanya karena perbedaan pilihan.
Public opinion polls show that at least 10% of the voters are undecided. Many are like this young woman.
Ya besok saya nyoblos, tapi saya emang nggak tahu presiden 1 dan 2 orangnya kayak gimana.
Jokowi Widodo began the campaign with a huge edge. In the spring, public opinion polls showed he was ahead of Prabowo by 20 to 30%. But his lead has eroded over recent weeks. One poll had Jokowi with just a 5-point lead. Joining us now is Richard Cockett. He's the Southeast Asia correspondent for The Economist magazine. Richard, great to have you with us.
Very good to be with you.
Now, first, we've seen what appears to be a big swing in public opinion polls as the campaign has unfolded. What happened?
Yes, Jokowi started this campaign with a large lead over his rival, Prabowo Subianto, and it's narrowed. I mean, the latest poll gives Jokowi no more than a 3% lead. So, given a margin of error, some people would say it's a dead heat. Two things happened. I think Jokowi has run a poor campaign. His supporters and his party backers have relied very much on his previous popularity to get him through this. They haven't really done their groundwork or research properly to improve. And Prabowo Subianto, who's got a lot of very rich backers, has run an extremely good and capable campaign. And so, you know, it's been a story of a poorly run campaign and a very professional, very dedicated campaign.
Prabowo's been accused by his former colleagues in the army of human rights abuses back in the 90s. What is that all about?
Well, specifically, it relates to the time of the fall of President Suharto, the dictator, who was swept away by a popular uprising after the Asia financial crisis in the late 1990s. And he was a general commander of the special forces then. And it's specifically the special forces were accused of abducting, kidnapping students, activists, other anti-government protesters, some of whom disappeared. But, you know, this is a big black mark on his record, which, of course, has come up on the campaign.
Why haven't these revelations seemed to matter?
Despite what happened under the dictatorship of Suharto, which went on for over 3 decades, there's a lot of nostalgia in Indonesia for the strong man, for the government of a strong central figure, of an authoritarian figure who can hold this very disparate, very diverse, very large, sprawling country together. And I think Prabowo is tapping into that. So people are prepared to forget, if not forgive, his past sins. He's also an old-fashioned campaigner. And I've been to his rallies, and they're very spectacular, they're very stage managed, they're very visual. You know, he uses all the props. You know, he's a showman in that respect, and he really travels for countries. He's quite good on TV, but he's also running a very effective, quite old-fashioned campaigners too. Of course, they're making use of social media, etc., and they're also running quite a dirty campaign as well, which helps. You know, there's been a lot of smears against Jokowi in a very racially sensitive country like Indonesia. Jokowi spent a lot of time rebutting allegations that he could be Chinese and he could be Christian rather than the Muslim Javanese that he really is. He's had to produce documents to show that he's not what his opponents claim. You know, this is all redolent of claims made against Obama, you know, that he might be a Muslim terrorist. Would you remember when Obama ran in 2008? And Jokowi's been on the back foot.
Finally, it seems that both candidates have talked a lot about Indonesian nationalism and criticized foreign investment. They must reckon it plays well with the voters. Why is that?
Well, Indonesia has enjoyed a long economic boom now. Over the past 10 years, it's had growth of 6% or over a year. So it's had this remarkably good run. It's been one of the stellar performers of the emerging markets over the past decade. And GDP has grown, GDP per head has grown too. Nonetheless, it remains a relatively poor country with a lot of people on very low earnings. And there's a strong sense in Indonesia that a lot of this economic growth has come off the back of the export of resources, mainly to India and China. Both candidates talk about this. Prabowo, though, has really made it the centerpiece of his campaign in a way that Jokowi has not. His message is that foreigners for too long have looted Indonesia of its raw resources, of its coal, its minerals, etc. Foreigners have made all the money, and it's time for Indonesians to get a fair cut of its natural resources. It's a very powerful message in these times.
All right, thank you. Richard Cockett is Southeast Asia correspondent for The Economist magazine.
Now on U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.